Okay, so hi. Anyway, um, when it comes to entheogens and enlightenment and these kinds of things, and we're talking about drugs. People, I think drugs have been demonized to the point where even people who partake in them maybe are a little too heavy-handed or want to err on the side of the moral majority just a little bit. I don't know. Because there's this kind of idea that you don't need the drugs, which isn't necessarily what we're talking about per se, but I mean it's a big, it's a common attitude, and I kind of think that if you're a seeker, you're looking for these kinds of enlightenments, of, higher states, altered states of consciousness. There are many roads one can travel, and there isn't a good one or a bad one per se, or a right one or a wrong one. They're all different. You can be into meditation, you can be into yoga, and use that as a route. But the fact is, you're not going to talk to the ayahuasca spirits or the machine elves or whatever if you're doing yoga. It's just not going to happen. I mean, these are different things we're talking about. I think the very birth of human spirituality comes from entheogenic drugs, comes from plants, psychedelic plants, going back 50,000 years. You can look at cave paintings from 35, 40,000 years ago, and it's quite apparent. Even today and throughout human history, all the old cultures, all the native indigenous cultures, all the shamans regularly consume these things. A Curundo or an ayahuasquero does this regularly. This is how they contact the spirits. This is how, and this is not, it's not something done, only in special occasions. The whole village consumes ayahuasca. From 14 on, you consume it regularly. It's a rite of passage into adulthood, which we in our culture have lost. It's a very important way of contacting the spirit world, if you want to call it that, or getting to a heightened state of consciousness. Mushrooms and LSD and mescaline and all these things are different keys and unlock different doors. I guess is the best way to say it. But the idea that you don't need them, I don't think that's exactly true. I think even if you want to take the example of yoga, the god Shiva is the god of yoga. He's also the god of hashish. There's 6,000-year-old statues of Shiva holding a chillum in a yoga pose. So they're connected. Sorry. There's just, I remember even things like rhythmic dance, where you get into this trance dance state, and it's usually done in large groups of people and singing and drumming, and you're doing this for many hours. And even with that, the average person wherever, you can't dance for 6 hours without stopping and not have some kind of stimulant. So you may not be taking a psychedelic drug to get to that altered states of consciousness, but you're certainly taking something to help you get there. Various drinks give you energy, all these things. So the drug is still involved. I think it's just because our culture's demonized these drugs for so long, and it's been kind of drilled into our brains that they're somehow not good or bad. But in our kind of hippie community or whatever, that really translates to being kind of like, oh, well, it's not the only way, or you don't need it. And you don't, depending on what you're doing. So, I mean, you know, there's certain experiences I've had on various mix of substances where I've certainly been in an altered state and felt and heard certain things. Where, you know, someone I know who does yoga described a very similar thing during one of his, you know, yoga while he was practicing yoga. So there's definitely crossovers, and meditation and yoga and all these things totally help. They all work together. But to separate out the drugs and say you don't need them, I don't think is true, because it, again, depends on what you're doing. But and they're not a shortcut either. People often, I hear that oh, it's just a shortcut and you should spend 30 years on a mountain monastery to do this, and that's the only way to do it. And that's not true. You know, if you know a Buddhist monk wants to go have a heightened state of consciousness, yeah, he can do that too, because he's doing something very different to what an ayahuasquero is doing. You know, they're different things. They're different kinds of enlightenment. So, and you know, it doesn't matter what your opinion of drugs are. The facts are that these shamans do this, and it regularly, and it's part of their culture. It's part of their religion. It's an everyday occurrence. Like, some shamans are on ayahuasca all the time. Well, not literally all the time, but very regularly. It's their role in the community to be this way, you know, and to help others, you know. So they are one key to a doorway of enlightenment. They're the main key, I think. They're the first key. But yeah, you know, you don't have to do them, whatever. And you can practice yoga and get off on that. But don't make the mistake that you don't need to do, you know, you can't practice yoga and then hang out with the ayahuasca spirit. Like, that's not going to get you there. I don't know. I'm just kind of repeating everything now. But, yeah, so let's see this. Oh, now I have to edit all this crap out. Okay.